Alright, guys, I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. We're going to have some fun today. Today, we're going to stir up all sorts of controversy because I'm going to rank the Star Wars movies, all of the theatrically released movies, so that includes the Clone Wars. While my favorite Star Wars movie probably is the same as a lot of yours, my ranking, I guarantee, is not going to be the same as any of yours. There's one in particular that I think is going to put people in a tizzy. But let's go ahead and start our rankings. There has been 11 theatrically released Star Wars movies if you count the Clone Wars, so let's start at number 11. Number 11 is the Clone Wars. That movie was just bad. And what's amazing with it is that it actually spawned a really fantastic TV show, but the movie itself was bad. I mean, whose idea was it to name the Jabba's kid? I think it was Jabba's kid, right? Stinky. There was just so much about this that was not good, ill-conceived, bad ideas. It just felt horrible, and it just wasn't good. Next, at number 10, is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. There was actually a lot that I liked about this movie. I know a lot of people like to hate on this, and they like to hate on the prequels, which we'll talk about the prequels a lot more, because I disagree with a lot of you on the prequels. But The Phantom Menace, there was actually a lot to like. The pod racing scene was fantastic. The Duel of the Fates was phenomenal. Ewan McGregor's portrayal as Obi-Wan, Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, all of that was fantastic. All right? It was a narrative that didn't go anywhere. The whole narrative was a series of meetings. That's all it was. Even at the third act, you still had meetings happening. Meetings that were essential for the Star Wars saga as a whole, but even in the third act, you had meetings taking place. So the whole movie was a series of meetings. It didn't have much of a narrative, and that's why Phantom Menace is easily the worst of the live action. At number 9 is Attack of the Clones. Again, I know people like to bag on Attack of the Clones. There is some really good stuff in here. That last half hour, the beginning of the Clone Wars, phenomenal. Some of the best Star Wars that there is. But it did have a cringe-worthy romance in it, where there was no chemistry between Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen, and it showed. And then at the end, she just all of a sudden, yes, I love you, like out of nowhere. I don't know. The whole romance was ill-conceived, and it had to happen. I realized that it had to happen. But just the way that it happened. And also, another good thing in this, the Yoda fight. Who doesn't love the Yoda fight? Come on, I remember going to see Attack of the Clones like 5 times in the theaters because of the Yoda fight. That's it. I was like, just here's my money. I want to see Yoda fight Count Dooku again. So yeah, Attack of the Clones is near the bottom of the list, but there's stuff to like in it. And I try to stay positive. I try to talk about the stuff that I like more than the stuff that I don't like. Yeah, the romance sucked. It did. There's no way around it. But there was a lot to like in this. At number 8, we have Solo, a Star Wars story. This was a good Star Wars movie. I'm sorry. It was a good Star Wars movie. The portrayal of Lando Calrissian and Han Solo in this movie, they were spot on. Now, it was kind of a generic action/space movie. Yeah, I get it. Was it necessary? No, it wasn't necessary at all. But it was fun. This was a good movie. It was a good movie. It was fun. I had a good time with it. I left the theater that day and I was like, that was fun. I've only watched it once since. I bought it on Blu-ray, I watched it, and I haven't watched it since. So the rewatchability factor is kind of low for me. But Solo is better than Attack of the Clones and a Phantom Menace. And, I thought it was a good Star Wars movie at the end of the day. The Darth Maul twist at the end, the cameo, I liked it. Unfortunately, we're probably never going to see anything come of that because Solo kind of tanked. But, yeah, it was a good Star Wars movie. Number 7, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Man, there's a lot of haters for this movie. And I'm not on board. I'm sorry, I'm not on board with the hate for this movie. There was a lot not to like, for sure. The whole Canto Bite sequence with Finn and Rose, dumb. It took us nowhere. There was no narrative purpose for it other than to say, yes, see guys, Finn is still in this movie. But the storyline with Luke and Rey, fantastic. And it's not even what I wanted to get from Luke. But it was phenomenal. I loved what they did with the Luke storyline. I loved how they made him like this Jedi God Master at the end, like the most powerful Jedi to ever live. Man, I love the Luke story. The people who say that the Ryan Johnson has a fundamental misunderstanding of the Luke character, I'm sorry, you're just wrong. You're just wrong. Everything that Luke did in this narrative is the same stuff that classic Luke would have done. He was always hot-headed. He was always irrational. He was always leaping before he looked. He was always making decisions based on his feelings. This was Luke. This was Luke. I'm sorry, this was Luke. Is it what we wanted it to be? No, we wanted Luke to be a badass who came in and took on the First Order by himself with a laser sword. But that's not what we got. And what we got was probably a little more true to the Luke character. I'm sorry if you disagree, but that's just the way I see it. This was Luke. A lot of stupid decisions made in this movie, to be no doubt. Finn's storyline was awful. Poe's storyline wasn't good. The Leia stuff, I would have rather seen Leia do the suicide mission there at the end. I think they could have easily edited it together to make that happen. For some reason, they didn't. But, Last Jedi, number 7, it's not nearly as bad as people like to say. This is where the controversy is going to start. This is where the hate begins. This is where everybody is going to be like, you don't know Star Wars. Push up my glasses. You're apparently not a very real Star Wars fan. Alright, this is where it starts. Right here. Because number 6 is Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. I'm sorry. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope is a middle-of-the-road Star Wars movie for me. It is a very tight movie narratively. I compare it to the other movies above it, and it doesn't hold the same weight for me. If I take out the nostalgic factor, if I take out the fact that I grew up watching Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, if I take out the fact that this was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and look at it without those nostalgic glasses on, the acting was horrible. Other than Sir Alec Guinness, the acting was horrible. Vader was a puppet. The lightsaber duel at the end was a joke. The special effects Lucasfilm wasn't quite there yet as to where they got in Empire and Return of the Jedi. There was so much about A New Hope that you could tell they were getting their legs underneath them. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But for me, it is not the best Star Wars movie. It's not even top 3. It's a middle-of-the-road Star Wars movie. I'm sorry. It established a lot that we love, but it's not one of the top ones for me. Number 5, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Love it. The Vader scene at the end, the whole siege at the end of the movie. Loved it. Thought it was great. And I was glad that Disney had the guts to kill them off at the end. I was afraid that they wouldn't, but they did, so that's great. Rogue One was an all-around good movie. Sorry. Again, I think that the re-watch value of Rogue One isn't as high as some of these others. Good movie. Number 4, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. There was a lot crammed into this movie, but a lot that I loved. Yeah, Grievous was stupid. Count Dooku died really easily right in the beginning of the movie. I felt like he was a very underutilized character in the films, but man, there's a lot to love here. Ewan McGregor comes into his own as Obi-Wan. The change between Anakin when he became Vader, I actually bought it. I bought the fact that he would not want Windu to kill Palpatine, because to him, Palpatine was the person who could keep Padme alive. So there's a lot that I bought about this. The whole transformation, the march into the Jedi Temple, I'm glad that they did that. The duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin, just phenomenal. There's some stupid stuff, to be sure. You know, Padme dying because she lost the will to live. I mean, a lot of it just was stupid George Lucas stuff. But man, Revenge of the Sith is a fun movie to watch. Yoda versus the Emperor. Man, that was fun, right? I'm sorry. Revenge of the Sith is good. Revenge of the Sith is better than A New Hope. My opinion. It's all subjective, but that's my opinion. Number 3, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Love it. I thought it was a great movie, a great return to Star Wars. Harrison Ford, I loved him in it. I loved the way that they brought his character to an end. I love Rey's journey in this movie. Finn right there alongside of her. There was so much that I liked about Force Awakens. Excuse me. Force Awakens was a great Star Wars movie. And some of it might be nostalgic feels. Like it felt like Star Wars again. So, I don't know, but I love The Force Awakens. I still love to watch The Force Awakens. I just love it. Alright. Number 2, Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. The throne room scene at the end is as good as Star Wars gets. The final duel between Luke and Obi-Wan. Not Luke and Obi-Wan. Luke and Vader. That's as good as Star Wars gets. Period. Love Return of the Jedi, but it's not quite as good as the first, as number 1, The Empire Strikes Back, which is most people's favorite Star Wars movie. You know, the training in Dagobah, the opening battle on Hoth, the Cloud City duel between Luke and Vader, Lando Calrissian, Han and Leia, and Chewie, and the droids getting captured. Man, this was all great stuff. Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie, and that will probably never change. Because this is the movie that we judge Star Wars films on. So that's gonna be an unclimbable mountain. No Star Wars movie is gonna be able to surpass that. So, Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie, and I just love it. I love it. I can watch it over and over. So let's recap. Number 11, The Clone Wars. Number 10, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Number 9, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Number 8, Solo, A Star Wars Story. Number 7, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Number 6, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. I've got my tomato shield ready for the tomatoes that's going to get chucked at me. Number 5, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Number 4, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Number 3, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Number 2, Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. And number 1, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. What are your favorite Star Wars movies? What are your Star Wars rankings? How would you rank these 11 movies? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you hit that make sure you hit that subscribe button. And you can find me at the LQ Review on Facebook. As always, thank you for joining me right here where we talk about all the nerdy, geeky stuff that we love to talk about. I'm LQ, this is the LQ Review, and thank you for joining me.